If you ever see a video on YouTube saying, I became fluent in X language in 7 days, 30 days, listen to me. As your English teacher, do not let this idea creep into your head and start messing with your thinking. Don't start thinking, they became fluent in a week. I've been learning English for 3 years and I'm still not fluent. Do not do that. Before I explain why, if this is your first time here, then hello, I'm Jean. I've been an English teacher since 2019, and you're listening to English Extras, a podcast designed to help make English make sense. If you learned something new today, please consider subscribing. And if you're already subscribed, thank you and welcome back. It would be fantastic if you shared this episode because it is the best way to support me completely for free. Now, let's talk about fluency and why becoming fluent in a language in a week is ridiculous. There are so many myths that circulate about language learning. To circulate means to move around. You see this in words like blood circulation, like how blood moves around your body. You see this in situations like the library, when a book is put into circulation, meaning to make a book available at a library, or taken out of circulation, meaning to make a book unavailable at a library by removing it. There are tons of myths circulating on social media about language learning. The very first myth we have to talk about before we talk about anything else is what the definition of fluent is. Here's how my second language acquisition textbook defines fluency: a measure of how smoothly and quickly one can produce the target language. The way linguists use the word fluent is mostly related to speed and smoothness, not word choice or mistakes. In fact, linguists use 3 different factors to talk about language performance, and fluency is just one of those 3. They are complexity, accuracy, and fluency. Let's talk about each one of these for a second. Complexity is about things like how long are your sentences? How sophisticated are your grammar structures? And are you only using more common vocabulary? Accuracy is about what we would call mistakes. This can be with grammar or word choice. Maybe you use the wrong tense or use the wrong word. And fluency, like I said, is about speed. Linguists take these factors together to create a picture of your level of language acquisition. It is not just one thing. So let's apply the linguist's definition of fluent to people who claim to become fluent in 7 days. Are the people in these videos speaking quickly and smoothly? Maybe sometimes. But are they making complex sentences accurately? Without knowing the language they're speaking, I can't say for sure about their accuracy, but based on the translations I usually see, they aren't making sophisticated sentences. So you could say, hey, how are you? My name is Jean. I'm an English teacher and I'm learning Spanish. Does that mean I'm fluent? By a linguist's definition, yes, but only because I can say it quickly and smoothly. So there's a problem here. The way we use the word fluent is different from the academic meaning of fluent. In linguistics, fluent refers to one specific part of language production. But in the general non-academic world, fluent is used to talk about the whole picture of someone's language production. So in the everyday non-academic world, fluent is used the same way as proficient. So let's move away from a linguist's definition. What about other definitions of fluent, like from successful language learners? Well, Probably one of the most famous polyglots on the internet currently is Steve Kaufmann. He has learned all kinds of languages and he's been learning languages for decades, so he has a fair amount of credibility in this area. A polyglot, by the way, is someone who can speak multiple languages. If you want to learn more about the terms I use in this episode, check out the transcript in the description. The transcript has definitions and example sentences for a lot of the more advanced terms used here, as well as an episode summary. It's also free. Here's what Steve Kaufmann has to say about the meaning of fluent. He says, "In my view, B2 is the benchmark level for fluency. At a B2 level, you can understand and express yourself in a wide variety of contexts and subjects. Precision is not perfect, but your grasp of the language is evident." This last part, where he says your grasp of the language is evident, means your understanding of the language is clear or obvious. So here we have Steve Kaufmann saying that he considers a B2 level to be fluent. B2, by the way, is a proficiency level on the CEFR scale. There are a lot of letters going around now, but stay with me. CEFR stands for the Common European Framework, and it is the way to measure your level of European languages. It begins at A1 for absolute beginner, and then goes to A2, B1, B2, C1, and finally C2. A C2 in English is at the level of a highly educated native speaker. So B2 is upper intermediate. What do other people say about the definition of fluent? Well, the textbook definition of fluent is capable of using a language easily and accurately, according to my favorite dictionary, Merriam-Webster. But of course, what does it mean to use a language easily? Everyone is going to have different definitions of easy. Some people ask themselves questions like, how much am I translating in my head? How quickly can I understand? How quickly can I speak? How much do I have to think about how to say something? These can be ways to figure out how fluent you think you are. The ultimate point here is to demonstrate that fluent does not have a universal definition. When people ask me, how long does it take to become fluent? Or why am I not fluent yet? My first response is, what's your definition of fluent? Because you might already be fluent according to other learners. So before you start asking, am I fluent yet? Make sure you actually have a clear definition of what fluent means to you. Now, I'm going to caution you here. Your definition of fluent might include the condition or criteria that you have to speak perfectly. In other words, you might be tempted to believe that if you make mistakes, then you aren't fluent. Remember, accuracy is only one of the components of language acquisition. It is not the only component. You can speak with perfect grammar, but not speak smoothly or quickly. You can speak with perfect grammar, but only use simple words and structures. Accuracy is one part of the bigger picture of language acquisition. In fact, I also want you to keep in mind that native speakers don't always use perfect grammar. But I don't want to go down a rabbit hole about grammar and fluency. If you want to know if grammar is necessary to become fluent, I have an entire episode about that, and I'll link it in the description for you. So, okay, to get back to the main point, why do I scoff when I see videos that say, I became fluent in 14 days, 7 days, or whatever? I believe that person in the video learned a lot in 7 days. I believe that person learned to say some sentences quickly and smoothly, maybe even introduce themselves like a native speaker. But knowing what we know about what it means to be fluent, can we reasonably believe that someone could do all of that in so short a time span as 1 week? I think not. It's not reasonable to believe that claim based on the evidence that we have. So you might be thinking, well, Jean, if it isn't possible to become fluent in 7 days, then how long does it take to become fluent? Luckily for you, I have an episode that talks about the answer to that exact question. I will leave a link to it in the description for you to check out right now. If you're still listening, leave a comment telling me what your definition of fluent is. Maybe you and I have the same definition of fluent. Who knows? All right, until next time, my friends. Bye.